Mostly it's that if you don't fear Texas, you're gonna, because the run that they are on is indicative of the run that Kirby Smart was on when he finally got the thing rolling at Georgia. Thing is, it didn't take him that long at Georgia. As a matter of fact, I would even say, no, actually it did take him that long, because what I'm thinking about is Texas is in 2024 what Georgia was in 2017, but how long did it take Georgia to win a national championship, right? We're talking about getting to 2021. We're talking about perhaps year 5, and Steve Sarkisian goes from 5-7, 8-5. You know what it was last year, and it feels like at the very least they ought to make the semifinal again, if not win the national championship. Also, Michigan went on this kind of a tear, right? They got to win their conference, then they make the playoff, they make the playoff again, and then finally the third time they win it. I think Zelus Hicks committing to Texas not a week after Texas handed Michigan its head is not a coincidence. Just as I don't think Christian Jones committing to Nebraska after Nebraska handed Colorado its head when they're in a fist fight with Oklahoma for that dude is a coincidence either. Now, he's from Nebraska. He's from Omaha, and he's the best player in the state of Nebraska. Zelus Hicks is also at Carrollton in Georgia, where he teammates with Juju Lewis, and he's 2026, so, I mean, perhaps you're not as excited about that if you're a Texas fan, but you need to be, because Blake Gideon knows what it means to play safety at Texas, and Blake Gideon has been kind of on a tear, and he got a whole daddy back there in Andrew Mukuba Sr., who is playing like a daddy. He's playing like he got mouths to feed. Everybody knows that when you got mouths to feed, you be hitting harder. And what was once a weakness for Texas is not so much of a weakness so far, and that's their secondary. Like, we thought that their defensive line was going to be good, and it is. We thought the linebacking core was going to be good, and it is. Watching what Jade and Andrew have been able to do in that secondary ought to make you feel really good if you're a Texas fan, to say nothing of what your offense is doing. And we're having these conversations about Quinn Ewers being a Heisman contender, along with guys like Cam Ward, and even, to some degree, Kyle McCord, who's had one hell of a start to his season, back-to-back games of 350 passing or more, tied for number 1 in passing TD so far this season with 8. Syracuse has the kind of schedule that kind of mirrors Nebraska's in the Big Ten, like in the ACC, where they're not really going to run into somebody that can give them a fit until perhaps October. For Nebraska, that's Ohio State. Tough. Syracuse, we'll see, right? The ACC kind of feels wide open, especially with what Boston College was able to do to Florida State. And if Boston College can get a win against Missouri this weekend, we'll be talking about them in a different way, right? But I wanted to talk about this because while the UTSA program that they're going to play this Saturday is not the one that Jeff Traylor had a couple of years ago, it is still a proud UTSA program. And we are talking about a 3-horse race for the national championship right now. We are talking about Ohio State, Georgia, Texas. Still waiting on that 4th team to show itself. Perhaps Alabama will make a believer out of me this weekend if they stomp a mud hole in Wisconsin and walk it dry. But I don't know, because Tennessee has already played a ranked opponent, and they didn't let that one get close. Like, it was over almost as soon as it got started with North Carolina State. And that wasn't even the best game that we have seen from Nico Iamaleava. It was kind of pedestrian, right? And the defense for Tim Banks has been monster. They are ridiculously good on that side of the ball. And if Josh Heupel's got a defense, it feels like if Lincoln Riley has a defense. And speaking of which, feels like USC is the second best team in the Big Ten this year. They got the ranked win against LSU on a neutral site, kind of like Tennessee against North Carolina State. Do we expect USC to be in the college football playoff? At this point, I don't know how you couldn't. It's a 12-team playoff, right? Oregon is getting bullied by the state of Idaho. And soon to be, a Power 5 program in Boise State, because that's what the Pac-12 wants to be. If they can get 2 more programs to join their cause before July 2026, they get to keep their status as an FBS conference and perhaps get treated like a Power 5 program as they're trying to get into the college football playoff, and that's what that's about. So on the same day that we learned that, Texas just got that much nastier in its defense 2 years from now, right? 2026. We also learned that the Power 5 is maybe making a comeback. And I guess that depends on how you feel about what you feels like a group of 5 team that is just better, or Scuba provide a conference that is maybe a little bit better than Mountain West right now, just because Oregon State and Washington State may or may not be able to turn the corner with you. Like, if Oregon State beats Oregon this weekend, Washington State beats Washington this weekend, maybe we're talking about this Pac-12 as it's coming in a different light. And that's the thing to take into account when we're talking about these things. It's the same way we use recruiting. That's why I wanted to put the Zelus Hicks and the Cal and Stanford conversation in the same segment. It's perception, right? I can tell you that Zelus Hicks is the number 1 rated safety in the country and a consensus 5-star. I can tell you that. I can tell you that I've seen that guy jump routes and dislodge the football from people on tackles. I can tell you that he is as advertised as a safety. Still difficult to project what a safety is going to be, but we got all the knowledge that tells us it's going to be good. That's the thing that is also happening for the Pac-12 right now. They're getting the Big 12 bump from last year when Brett Yormark was able to turn Oklahoma and Texas into not only leaving and extracting an exit fee, but also getting programs into the conference that make it an even better basketball conference. Talking about Arizona here mostly, right? But also add star power on the college football side, starting with Colorado and Coach Prime. Utah is a perennial winner. Arizona's plucky. Like, if they're able to get a win against Texas State, maybe they could show us something. Meanwhile, Texas State, Sunbelt team, they might be auditioning for the Pac-12 tonight. Same thing with the Memphis team that is going to play Florida State. They might be auditioning for the Pac-12 tonight. And now Teresa Gould, the Pac-12 commissioner, has something to work with. She has a San Diego State, a Colorado State, a Fresno State, and a Boise State, who are all very excited to be new members of the Pac-12 come 2026. And she gets to ride that out. So while it doesn't feel like, for whatever reason, UNLV or Nevada get to make that move, though I'm sure that if it could happen, who doesn't want to have a program from Vegas in their conference? I mean, that's the reason why the NFL wanted a team in Vegas. It's the reason why LeBron James wants to have an NBA franchise in Vegas. It's why the Vegas Aces are such a big deal. On the other side of that, you have the American, who apparently does not feel that threatened. Okay, I get it, right? Perhaps you feel like we're already offering more money to our members than you can, and that's what this bottom line is. How much money are you going to pay us? The number that's getting bounced around for what the Pac-12 could be is about 12, with as high as 12 per team. Maybe you're paying out to as much as 15. And then you got new players that could be coming into this thing too. Like, I'll be interested to find out if there's another network that wants to perhaps bid on what might be a television rights deal for the Pac-12. TNT and the NBA is kind of interesting. I understand there's a lot of people that already think that's interesting because they're sub-licensing a college football playoff game from ESPN. And it feels like they might have a little bit more cash to deal with, even if they fumble Charles Barkley. That still kind of gets under my skin. We love Chuck. Many of us believe that Chuck is the best in the world at what he does. And he's a star. Imagine being able to put Charles Barkley on college football the way they put Charles Barkley on the NHL. Look, let me run point guard. I mean, I know that's so much fun, because when you have folks that 100% are there to have a good time and are going to be entertaining, the product around them can be more entertaining. That's kind of what I do, right? I am what many call shoulder programming, because I'm talking about the sport as it happens, and I'm talking about the news as it happens. But that's also what we're doing here. We are hearing what the facts are. We are seeing what the narrative is from what the facts tell us, and then we're finding out what you want to hear us talk about, and we go do a thing, right? Recruiting is always going to be in the same bucket as realignment. And the reason it's always going to be in the same bucket as realignment is that you can be hopeful with that, right? Now, you can also be negative with that, and you can say, I don't believe that the zombie Pac-12 should be a Power 5 conference, and there's an argument for that. I would like to see what they put together, though, right? Because this Big 12 conference that's got 16 teams, we didn't know what to make of it 3-4 years ago. But if you go 1 through 11, 1 through 10, everybody there feels like they can go, you know? From Oklahoma State, Kansas, Utah. I mean, we'll see what Baylor can or can't do. Texas Tech, what they can or can't do. Go all the way down the line there. Houston, West Virginia, Cincinnati. Everybody has had Iowa State. Everybody has had an opportunity, Central Florida, to play in a college football New Year's Six bowl game in one way, shape, or another, right? They don't have any guys in there that are playing college football that don't want to do this, and that's kind of what you want from the Pac-12. You want to find group of 5 programs, and this is why we're zeroing in on places like Memphis, that want to be in the big-time college football conversation. That is important to me because I want to talk about college football programs that are all in on playing college football. I don't give a damn which conference you're in. And that's why we have such respect for the Sun Belt. It is a tough football conference. They want to be football first. And that's what it's going to take if you want to continue to play football in this environment. Yeah, we're going to have some separation. It's going to happen. Don't know what it's going to look like when it gets here, but it is coming. On 134 is just a lot of teams. We feel like half of those may not want to be football programs by the time we get to where we're going with this thing. But if you do, now is the time to show it. I mean, you're getting $25 million for just name, image, and likeness from in Memphis. That is a great way to show we're a football program. That's what we want to do. If they're able to beat a legacy program, one of the better programs of the last 30 years in Florida State, that's a great way to get started too, right? I think as you're looking around, you're going to see more conference realignment, but that's also going to be the mood of the day. Cal and Stanford don't feel like they're going to make a move because, A, they already signed into a grant of rights deal that puts them in the ACC for 2036. And while they won't make any money this year, like Southern Methodist, they'll make a lot more money down the line. And it'll certainly be more money than you probably could make if you return to the Pac-12. I know that a lot of people want the regionality to come back to this, but that's gone, guys. It's gone. At first, I'm thinking, yeah, Cal and Stanford might give this a thought, but then I'm thinking, no, because you're probably going to make twice as much being a member of the ACC as you would being a new member to the Pac-12, even if it's something you felt like you could run. And if you're Cal and Stanford, I'm not sure how important winning national championships is to you. And that is going to be the separation because we have built this sport around playing for the national title now. Just like the NFL builds itself around playing for the Super Bowl, just like men's basketball builds itself around playing in the tournament and for the national title. That's where we're at. If that is not who you want to be as a football program, now is the time to try to figure out what it is you're going to do next. But I tell you what, man, Texas, they want to win a national championship. They're showing it. Do you?